meeting, the last time we met, heard a little bit about this plan to go to a single board structure. This is something that has started to be fairly common in the United Methodist Church, in larger churches. If you've been around the United Methodist Church for very long, you know that there is a church council, there is a finance committee, there's a trustees committee, there is a staff parish relations committee, and those are all proscribed in the United Methodist Church. If you're trying to administer a church that way, that means it can be fairly cumbersome. And as our chair, Janet Hill, gave an illustration, for example, the sale of the parsonage involved all of those committees meeting separately and waiting for the next committee to come around and the next committee to come around in order to make significant decisions for the church. It was recommended by our church leadership that we combine these groups into a single board. This was not our own creative idea. This is an idea that has been tested among other churches in the United Methodist Church. And so therefore, we made the recommendation to have a single board. This frees up our membership time and attention to do the administrative work together, and frees a number of our members more to ministry. And so this was how we came to those decisions and why that was a recommendation for our church board.
Yeah. And I'm to give you a little, so if you know about the previous structure, it was cumbersome to say the least, and required about 65 people to be serving in administrative leadership, which is a lot. So our average worship attendance here on a Sunday is around 150. That's a real high percentage. And folks are busy. And if you're going to give time to something at the church, we would love for that to be something that reaches out beyond our walls or cares for the community or helps you grow in your faith. We think admin work can do that sometimes, but we wanted to change that structure a little. It does still meet the standards of the Book of Discipline for those of you who are schooled in Methodist interworkings. But it means now that this single board does the work of all of those committees, and there are members of the board that are assigned to those particular tasks, but the board does all of the work together. And so it does make things a lot easier. So the board will meet once a month, typically on the last Sunday of the month after church. So if you've got something that you want the board to look at or to consider, a ministry or something like that, you can let us know so that it can be on the board agenda for that month. We also so for trustees matters, building related matters, that tends to be what we hear a lot about. There's a form on the Linktree that allows you to submit if there are building issues that you notice while you're here so that we can make sure to attend to those. And I should have said this at the very beginning. If you have questions during our time together today, there is a form on the Linktree, which if you just grab a bulletin that I'm sure is littering the pew around you somewhere, and use the link on the back to go to it, there is a questions for all church meeting tab. And the benefit of submitting them this way, if you would rather just ask out loud, that's great. But if we run out of time, it will help us to have a record of what the questions were, and we can answer them in a different format, because we do know that people are hungry, and so we want to be respectful of your time. So we do want to introduce the board first. I'm going to introduce Janet Hill. She's our convener. Janet, I don't know if you were planning to introduce yourself with the stats that you asked for. Okay. I was like, I'll introduce for you, but you may prefer to do it. Make sure, I think you're on. There you go.
Hi, glad to see all of you here. Thank you for staying after church today. Again, I'm Janet Hill, and I have the pleasure of introducing the board to you. We've heard about the why and the how. Let's talk about the who. I have been a member of the church for about 6 or 7 years, I guess. John and I moved to the Heights about 10 years ago. And before I retired, I was a senior vice president and senior trust officer with the Northern Trust Company for over 35 years. We enjoy retirement a great deal. John and I also volunteer with Community Family Centers, which is a Near East End social services nonprofit. And again, it just gives my great pleasure to serve as the chair or convener of this group and to introduce our folks to you. We have several who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, and I'd like to give you just a little bit of information about them, so forgive my notes. I want to make sure I'm giving you what they told me. Jennifer Simons. Many of you know Jennifer, certainly know Craig, our facilities manager, and Jennifer serves as our lay leader beginning this term. I know Jennifer has served, she's been a member of our annual conference, speaks so highly and well on behalf of all of us at St. Mark's and throughout being a child of God. She is the current Chief Legal Officer at Oceaneering, and she also serves on the board of the AIDS Foundation of Houston. She's actively involved in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and mental health awareness in the workplace. She and Craig have been members for about 10 years. She's mostly proud, I think, of being mom to Alexa and to Mitchell, who are members of our youth area, and we're just so grateful that Jennifer is serving with us. Another member who couldn't be here today is Patty Mayo. Patty has been a member for, probably 6 or 7 years, something like that. She is currently overseas visiting with her family. Patty is a wonderful person that I had the opportunity of meeting at Vacation Bible School this last Sunday as we shepherded our little ones around from station to station. Patty, I find this very interesting. She's in a drum circle, D-R-U-M, a drum circle. She's also a wonderful writer, and she has a blog that I really encourage you to check out. In addition, Colin Radcliffe couldn't be with us today. Colin and his wife, Chelsea, have 2 little kids, Rose and Eleanor, who are very active in our Sunday school groups. And Colin is a business development officer for the Methodist Hospital. And one more that I'll tell you about, and that's Amber Mulhagen, who many of you know well. Amber was the chair of our Staff Parish Relations Committee before this one board was formed. Her background includes social work and higher education. Prior to her current position, she worked as a social worker at Bo's Place, Baker Ripley, and at a hospice organization. She's been in higher education for the last 20 years, specifically working at the University of Houston Graduate College of Social Work, where she is the Assistant Dean of Admissions and Student Affairs. She and Jeff have been members of St. Mark's for 15, 16 years, and their 2 kids, Aiden and Lydia, grew up at St. Mark's, as many of you know. They're both in college now, one at UT Austin and one at Trinity University. And her husband, Jeff, is a public Montessori teacher at the, at the Baker Middle School. And she's so grateful for the St. Mark's community and the many ways that their family has seen, experienced, and participated in God's love. She says, thank you for the opportunity to serve on the board. Okay, and now for those who are here, would y'all like to just come on up and maybe one at a time introduce yourselves to this group? One at a time, come on up. Come on down. May I hand it to you?
Okay. I'm Steve Ista. My wife Jane and I have been members for over 30 years. My kind of focus is on trustees at the church. I'm a retired building contractor, and now I'm kind of a part-time carpenter and farmer, I guess. But I have a lot of experience over the years doing trustee work here, and I think that's my focus mainly.
I'm Kevin DuBose. I've been a member here for 34 years, and I realized this morning that I was 34 when I joined. So I've now been here for half of my life. Seems like so much longer. In my day job, I'm a lawyer. My firm has an office in the Heights on Harvard Street in a house. When I'm not practicing law or here at the church or spending time with my children and grandchildren, all of which live nearby, thankfully, I do a lot of volunteer work with a group called Books for Development that collects donated books and sets up libraries in foreign countries. And in 2.5 weeks, Glenda and I will be going to Uganda for the 5th time to set up libraries and train local librarians.
All right, my name is Will Morgan. I've been a member here for a little under a year. In my professional life, I'm a CPA. I work as an audit supervisor for Blazik & Vetterling, a local public accounting firm. At the firm, I serve on our Community Engagement Committee, which helps connect our staff with opportunities to serve in the community. and with different organizations. And then in my personal life, it's a pretty simple life. I enjoy going for long walks. I like to cook. I also like making custom Spotify playlists. And if you're ever in a group chat with me, I will probably make a custom meme about you. So watch out for that. It is one of my talents.
My name is Alfie Wright. We've been members here for about 6 years. I'm a stay-at-home dad to a 4 and a 6.5-year-old boy. Here I've served on Board of Trustees, and in the last 2 years I've been one of the VBS co-directors.
I'm Janet Allen. I've been a member here since 1985. My husband Quincy grew up here in this church, and so did our children Will and Ben. Will and Susanna have been attending with us, and Ben as well. They're here now. In my roles here at St. Mark's, I've served as lay leader. I've served on staff parish relations committees, the committees. I'm a Sunday school teacher for 3rd and 5th grade through 5th grade now. Really enjoy children's ministries. That's just fun. My day job is as Vice President for Research Administration at Baylor College of Medicine, and I also serve on the board of FAM Houston.
I'm Kate Johnson. I have been a member at St. Mark's for 4 years. In my day job, I am a licensed attorney and a director of operations for a tax consulting firm. Things I enjoy outside of church and work are our puppies, which have kept us very busy, and enjoying our new neighborhood and my nieces and nephews.
I hope what you heard is that we have a wonderfully diverse group. And by that, to me, what's important is that the nominations committee looked carefully at our congregation and said, who needs to be on this board? It doesn't just need to necessarily be folks who have committed, because so many people in this church volunteer their time, they're committed to St. Mark's. But I think it's a wonderful group of people who, some are single, some are married. Some have been here 30 plus years, some have been here 2 years. They participate in our various Sunday school classes, including, thank you, Will, for being a part of our Epworth League. I mean, I think we have a wonderful representation of all the great things that we know and love about St. Mark's. And so, were there any questions, Emily?
Who do you contact for a building emergency, right? So that used to be a chair of trustees role. First step if it's office hours is always the office. Alita can kind of clearinghouse things for us and let the right person know. Better or worse, buddy, it's Craig. You'll contact if there's a building emergency, or you'll contact me if Craig is not available. Try the office first. So if it's a building emergency, try the office first, and then try me or Craig. If it's not an emergency, you can use the online form to let us know that there's a non-emergent issue. That's the only question we have so far.
If you have additional questions, I see one. Ben. Ben Allen has asked us what are the things that we're going to be focused on. And a lot of that is what we're going to talk about today, Ben, so thanks for the question. Thumbs up. What we really hope to do is not only take care of the administrative type things and following the book of discipline and making sure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, but in addition to that, to work strategically. What ministries do we have? What do we need to add on to it? What can go away? All those various things. And so that's where we really want to put our time and our effort. Mm-hmm. Anything else from the floor? Cindy. We had a question about the church's financial situation, and she wanted to know if we would be talking about that either now or as we move forward, and we certainly will be.
Yeah. We'll talk a little today and more later about various things.
Okay, so at this time, Emily, why don't we share the litany?
Oh, sure. So so a thing the board did together the first time that we met is that we did a little exercise around the room with things we were excited about, things we were worried about, things we were praying for, things we were thankful for, and we turned it into a prayer that we would pray together. And so we're going to offer it for you. It's normally a litany, but we're not going to print it for everyone. So we're going to invite you to pray with us for this new day. And the things that came up a lot for us was that everything was really new. We have this new building. We have this new structure. We have all of these new things. So a lot of it is that. So let us pray. God, who gives us joy, we are excited about newness with so many new things in place.
A new building, this new opportunity to serve on our board, new capacity to create space for our community, new members and new friends, and most of all, we are thankful for a new season in the life of our church and the world.
Even as we are excited, we have worries and want to entrust them to you. We are worried about
being in debt, having the resources we need for the future, about violence in our world and its impact on so many of your children, not becoming the freely welcoming and joyful place you'd have us be, losing momentum.
And so our prayers right now are
for anyone feeling left out and disconnected, for us not to fall into old habits that no longer serve us, that we can find our way forward financially, for healing in our community and our denomination, the United Methodist Church, and for a new beginning that gives God glory to you.
We give thanks that we get to lead in this place, which is
focused on love, is welcoming and inclusive, is engaged in our community, has amazing members and a wonderful community, and is focused on a future with hope, vitality, and joy.
For all this, we're grateful and ask your wisdom, boldness, love, and grace as we look to the good future you have for us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, friends, so moving on to some of the more administrative things. We own a property that we need to talk about. I'm going to let Janet handle that.
Wonderful. We own a property right next door. And due to the grace of God, it came available about 60 days after we had our fire. And that, of course, is our wonderful 520 P-Corps building. It came at a time when we had lost office space. We'd lost our kitchen, a place for the youth to gather, everything. And I believe it was a wonderful blessing that it happened to come available. With thanks to the Methodist Foundation, we were able to finance the purchase, 100% of the purchase of that building in January of 2020 with a floating rate interest loan, interest only for 2 years, and then it would begin amortizing. Focus again, folks, on January 2020 interest rates. It's March 2023, and things are very, very different now, as we all know personally and certainly in the life of our church. So the board at our first meeting, direct answer to Ben's question, we talked about 520 P-Corps. What are we going to do with it? It is now empty. We have found that with our wonderful new building that it is large enough, has room for expansion, and as best we can tell, we have many, many, many years ahead of us where it will more than serve what we need as we go forward. So we said, well, what could we be doing differently with it? Can it be used for a different ministry? And frankly, we felt like the answer to that is no, because we couldn't come up with anything that wouldn't require yet another large financial effort to fix it, to make it habitable, to bring it up to code, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So right now, our monthly payments are about $2,200 a month. Well, that's close to $25,000 a year that we are paying toward an empty building, where we have a full building that we have a financial commitment to. So we reached out to Raylyn White, who is a member of our church and has been a realtor for many years in this area, and asked her to present to us what's going on in our market. Take a look at our house, the building next door. Tell us what you think that it could be sold for. You know, it's really hard to find comparables these days, and especially a special property like this. But in any event, Raylyn did her homework, provided us with some really good information on what's on the market, what has sold, et cetera, et cetera. Brought that information back to the board, and we all agreed that it's time to put 520 P-Core on the market. It's time to list it. What else can I say about that? Great things about the property, it's zoned to Travis Elementary. That's a big plus. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Now, it needs fixing, but it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. It's historic. It was built in 1909, but it's not in an area that is historic. The street sign doesn't say historic. So lots of things going on. But the right buyer is out there, we believe, and with spring coming on, we think it should be listed. So I'm going to pause for any immediate questions, or I like the idea, or I don't like the idea. Any comments? Thank. The question is, will we be able to sell it and cover the loan? That is our hope. We bought and owe on the property about $575,000. And we are hopeful that we can list it, cover closing costs, and have a slight profit. You know, there are no guarantees. It all depends on the market and if the right buyer's out there. Yes, Paula. She's asking about a listing price, and the listing price that we have decided on is $625,000. Again, it is a fixer-upper. Anything else? Yes, Alexa. Alexa, we hope that it will sell really quickly. We're trying to price it such that it will be an attractive price for a buyer to come in. We don't want to give it away, but at the same time, we don't want to be unrealistic. No other questions? So the next step for us will be, just because the board said we want to do this, we still have to have a charge conference. And the charge conference will consist of a meeting of the board along with our district superintendent. And we have that scheduled for March 13th. So we are hoping that after that, we will be able to move forward, get it on the market. Oh, and I don't know if I said it, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, we're selling it as is. I mean, there are some very minor, a little bit of paint, some tiles need to be tacked down, a little bit of wood replacement, but we do not want to put more money into this.
That's right. Okay. So the next thing on our list is tax credits update. So this is really the building financial update altogether. So many of you know we have a loan from Texas Methodist Foundation that helped us cover the gap between what our insurance paid and what it actually cost to fix the building. We knew that gap would be pretty substantial. It turned out to be even more substantial than we thought, thanks global supply chain crisis and everything else. And so we have taken out the max of that loan. We were hoping we wouldn't have to, but we had to take out the max of that loan. But are hoping to get that cut. We were hoping already to get it cut about in half by this tax credit process. So the tax credits, we have qualified, actually as of this week, we have officially cleared the last hurdle to qualify to receive tax credits, which is fantastic news. So the church is on the National Historic Register and has met all the requirements from the state of Texas to receive tax credits. Again, we're a tax-exempt entity, so we will sell those tax credits through a broker to other financial institutions who will utilize them. A lot of churches have used this process. It makes very little sense to me because this is not where my brain excels. But it is a great program that I'm thrilled we're taking advantage of. And what we've learned recently, we believed, and what we've been sharing with you, is that the things that were covered by insurance, the expenditures covered by insurance, would not qualify for those tax credits, which would mean only the things that were paid for not by insurance would qualify. And thanks to our amazing consultant, Hannah Curry, she was reading a little bit of the IRS website and found out that might not actually be true. And so Kate, our wonderful attorney who works in tax, reviewed all the code, and we believe that many of our insured expenses will now qualify, and so it's possible we will be able to reduce that loan by significantly more. They may not let everything qualify. It's a little bit, we're gonna have to figure some stuff out, but it's very hopeful. And it means that that loan will be reduced even more dramatically in much shorter term. Now that we've qualified, the time frame for it should get to start moving pretty fast. I think it'll be about 30 days before we actually are able to, again, everything is sort of like, I don't know what it means to receive them, but for them to be like available for us to sell, and then another 30 days of process with the broker. But it's possible that by summer, if not shortly after, and certainly within the calendar year 2023, we will get to wipe out a significant portion of what is a $2.5 million loan. And so that's what the loan is right now, which is, for a church with our budget size, that's about we don't want to take out any more, for sure, which is another reason we want to get the house off the books, is to go ahead and get that taken care of. So hopefully we will have that loan reduced, by a minimum of, the lowest number that we're working with now, I think, is like $800,000 or $900,000, but it could be more like $2 million if they will let most of our insured work qualify. So our insurance policy was $7 million. We maxed it out. The total of the project was a little over $10 million. So we've paid about $500,000 of that just out of funds that we've raised and other resources. We paid some more out of selling the parsonage, and then the remaining 2.5 is on the loan. And so that's where we are on all of that. In terms of operating budget, Cindy, you asked about overall finances. Obviously, servicing these loans is a huge drain that we would like to not do, that we will only have to be covering this high end of these for another couple months. And we're honestly doing well on cash flow. We actually had the best stewardship campaign I think we've ever had. We got commitments well over $500,000. We've never broken that amount of money on a stewardship campaign. So it will be thanks to your generosity that we can get through this without too much suffering and come out on the other side in a good financial position and ready to do new things besides service debt. This is the first time St. Mark's has carried debt that I'm aware of. It's definitely been a policy that we preferred not to, but it became evident real quickly in the fire recovery process that it was not going to be an option. So that's where we are on tax credits. We hope we'll be able to report to you in the next 3 months that we have been able to pay off a substantial amount of that debt. I can't remember if you already said, we're in the large debt, we're interest only for right now, which makes it manageable, and our lender is Texas Methodist Foundation. They're very gracious. We can be interest only on that for a really long time if we need to be, but obviously we would hope not to be. And so our plan, once we get the big amount paid off, is to figure out, that'll make the monthly payments much more manageable, and then a couple years down the road, what we'll probably do is have a quick debt reduction campaign to knock out the rest of it. So that will be the plan for that in the long term, but hopefully, again, we'll get that number down to a much more manageable number here real quickly. I'm not seeing questions here. Am I seeing questions there? I'm gonna have Katie come and talk a little bit about our days, so we have other projects too. So Katie's gonna talk to you a little bit about the day school and one of their projects.
Yes, so we have a lovely playground that gets used about 6 days a week that has been in some state of disrepair for a number of years. We have done pretty major repairs on it every year for at least like the last 4 or 5 years. And it always ends up, that is quite an effort when that happens because they don't make playgrounds anymore the way that this one is made, and many people will not work on the playground because of the liability of child safety. And so basically the man who built it originally is the only one that we can get to fix it when it breaks, and that is, he's older and doesn't do it
really
very
work
much
on it
anymore. He's done with it. We're in the process. The school has been we've known this is an issue for a long time, and our day school has been fundraising for a new playground since 2019. And we have been, as a church, saying, push the brakes, hold on, because we did not want to do anything that would impact any of the other work that we had going on at the church. And we didn't want work on the playground to touch when we had inspectors here all of the time and have to jump through more hoops because of that. And so they have been quietly, patiently, diligently raising money since 2019, and only just last week did we say, okay, you can start to move forward with this process. One of the reasons we wanted to talk to you about it, there's a few things. One is that so when kids come to the day school, they're only here for about 3 or 4 years because they age out and go to elementary school. And so if you've had a kid and you've been giving money to this since 2019 and seen nothing happen, you might get a little less willing to give and lose a little patience about it. So we'd like to see at least the first phase of this work happen, which can be phased out over time. They have about $45,000 raised already, a little bit more, which should take care of the first phase of this, which will allow them to see some of that work happen. The other reason is because we didn't want you to start seeing work happen on that and go, wait a second, we're still working on this. Currently, we're not being asked to help with any of that funding at this point for this project. But the third reason I wanted us to talk about it today is because the playground doesn't only benefit the school, it benefits the church as well. There are my kids probably playing on it right this minute, as well as Alfie's. One of the things that we would like to do is be as helpful to them as possible in their upcoming fundraiser. So they have a fundraiser in April, toward the end of April, and we would love to just absolutely come alongside them and support them and have the community surround them so that we can get as close to the total that they need, that I don't have off the top of my head. It's like 120, something like that, to get as close to that total possible as they need to finish that work. And so you can do that 2 ways. One is through they have a fundraiser that has a silent auction at it. So if you have things that could go to be donated to their silent auction, that would be very helpful, especially if it is like a vacation home or an experience or tickets to something, and that you'd be willing to donate to that. That would be super helpful. But also you'll start seeing the fundraiser itself advertised. And so we would love for you to be a part of that, whether you attend in person or just donate or buy tickets to it. We really hope that this can be an event that both the school community and the church community can be deeply a part of. The only other thing I wanted to say is, you might say, really, Katie, the timing, are you sure about the timing? And the other reason that the timing is really good for us is because we have 2 dads in the school right now that this is what they do for a living. And so we've gotten giant price breaks on this. One is in the design and one is in the manufacturing. And so I don't think we've paid a dime for the design work that they've done. And so we want to take advantage of that while they still have kids in the school, because the playground will still be broken if we don't, and it'll be a more expensive prospect to do it later. So that's what I've got. Does anybody have any questions? I can't remember how much.
Let me find the total.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's around 120,000.
It's around 120,000, but it can be phased into 3 different phases.
And they've already raised well over a third, almost 50% of that they've already raised.
Yes. They've been very thoughtful about doing this in a way that is as thrifty as possible. So we won't replace we will replace with new mulch, but we're going back with the same kind of ground cover that is there now, which is by far the most cost effective in that. It won't be exactly the same as it is now. It's not like we're just going to take everything out and put it right back with new things. We can start showing you some pictures too of the design work. They just don't make playgrounds like this anymore. When I first saw the pictures, I said, we still need stuff for elementary kids. And they said, this is for elementary kids. We don't let them get as high as we used to. It's not metal slides that are 10 feet high, right? Everything is for kindergarten into 12 years old, like in that age, and then as it goes closer to the sport court, it gets littler. So there's more, there are still like play stations, but then there are also like hills with like tunnels through them and different kinds of play elements to that too. So, other questions? Hey. Yeah.
Oh, the container, the albatross that's sitting there, yes. That is set to disappear any day now. So it has a bunch of the remnants of the organ process in it, and we are awaiting our organ builder to transfer it to his next project. So we're not still paying for it to be here, but it remains here for hopefully the shortest amount of time humanly possible. Yes, Craig? We will make a big push this week. Yeah, hopefully this week. We would very much like it gone.
It is not a part of the playground process, no.
Fun fact, the mulch is called kitty cushion.
The mulch is called kitty cushion, yes.
Something I learned in this process.
Any other playground questions? Great, I'm excited about it. If you have things you want to donate, you can contact the school directly to Megan and Tiffany, our wonderful directors, and I'm also happy to help you with that process. But if you have things you'd like to donate to the auction, let me know.
Okay, this is like right when we're trying to get you out of here, but we do still have United Methodist Church update on here, and I know folks have questions about it. I would love it if you have questions about the denominational stuff to submit them via the form so that I can answer some of them later, but I'm gonna give you just the real quick and dirty of some of this. I mean, I think most of us are aware that there's lots going on in the denomination. It got some, quite a bit of local and national press over the course of the last couple of months. So we had a called session of the annual conference. Annual conference is the term that applies to both a meeting and a region. So it's very confusing. So the people of the annual conference region got together for an annual conference meeting to vote on churches that had been through a process to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church. All of this is related to the church's continuous infighting around marriage equality and ordination equality for LGBTQ plus people. And so that finally came to a head, and a group of pastors and churches had been working for a long time to form a new denomination, and they did that. And so churches began to depart either for that denomination or to be independent churches, depending on what that particular church decided. It was so across the whole denomination, it's like around 6% of churches right now have disaffiliated, but in our annual conference, it's nearly half, having a lot to do with our previous conference leadership, just to be blunt, working toward that particular outcome. And so that happened, and our previous bishop is now a bishop in that denomination. We have a new bishop. Her name is Cynthia Harvey. We're very grateful she's here. She is from Texas, and so this is a homecoming for her. And obviously, it's been a really difficult time in our conference. I'm really grateful that most of this has not had heavy impacts on us at St. Mark's. It's been really devastating for a lot of folks in a lot of churches. And I'm really glad that we have not had to feel a lot of those impacts, but that is something that's been going on and has been a super devastating time in the life of the United Methodist Church as a whole, especially in this area. And so this is definitely a season in this area for healing of those of us who have stayed in a time of working for the kind of justice we've always wanted to see in our church. And so in many ways, I'm really, I guess it's not, I don't know. I'm excited about the future that God has for the United Methodist Church in this area. We have needed to be smaller and more agile for a while, and have needed to be able to be more inclusive and celebratory for a while. And we are free to do that in ways we have not been. And so while it has been a really painful season for many of our Methodist siblings, I really do think really good days are ahead in the Methodist Church, and even for some of these churches that have just really been through an awful season. There is excitement there. So there are whole areas of the Houston area where every single church in the area voted to disaffiliate. And already in those areas, the members of those churches were like, we're not doing that. And so they just started forming their own churches without anybody's permission, which I just love so much, I can't even stand it. And so we have like 10 new church starts going right now that just have started in the last 2 months. So there's exciting stuff going on too, and we're gonna get to enjoy a greater freedom. Some folks have asked how that will affect things that relate to the denomination. So we pay apportionments to the general church that go to various things. Our apportionment amount for this year actually went down, which is great. It will change some of the resources available to us, though not dramatically at this time. So for my money, this has been a really crap season, to be blunt, but it's not going to last forever, and actually what's ahead of us is a lot better than what's behind us. And so I'm really excited about that and excited to walk into that with you all. And I am glad to answer questions about that. We're getting real close to end time. If you have a burning question you need me to answer right now, I would love to answer it. Otherwise, use the form. Rose.
It's not a question. I just pray prayers for every single, especially clergy in the original United Methodist Church, because whichever way they went, many of them went through that with a new church.
Yeah.
And you know,
Right.
suddenly have to go through something really divisive.
Right.
And I just pray your prayers.
Thank you, Rose. Yeah, if you couldn't hear, Rose was offering prayers for those churches and clergy, especially clergy that went through that process in a new place. So our clergy are what's called itinerant. We can move any year. We can be asked to move to a different church in the region, which means that some of those folks moved to a new church in July and had to have a disaffiliation vote by November, which is pretty brutal in a transition phase. Okay, last thing, and then I promise we're going to get you to lunch. This one just says ministries update. Is there anything? Y'all send us questions that you have. I would say one is that Pastor Jenny is participating in a new, I don't think it's a new program, it's new to us. She's in an advocacy cohort in the near north side that is hopefully going to help connect us to larger advocacy efforts in that neighborhood, which we're super excited about. We're all really excited to be past picking out mortar colors all the time and being able to do some new and exciting things. And so we're glad for Jenny to have this opportunity. Jenny's the only member, you're the only member, right, that doesn't live or have kids in school on the north side. So it's really made up of primarily local leaders, which speaks to this congregation's engagement in that neighborhood and hopes for partnership ahead, that they've entrusted us with that and to be in that space with those folks. So we're really excited about that. And everything else is trucking along really well. It's not quiet around here, which is exciting for us. Am I forgetting anything, Wes? Anyone? Okay. Submit us questions. I'm sorry we kept you a little longer than I thought we would, but wanted you to have all of that info and just kind of know what's up. Oh yeah, we'll hang here, so if you've got questions and you didn't want to shout them out to the whole group and you hate online forums, that's fine. You can just come up and we'll be here, and are glad for you to ask questions. Katie, do you want to pray us out? Thank you.
Yes, let's pray. Loving God, we are so thankful for this place that you give us, for this people that you have given us to each other. And God, we know that it is a blessing that you have given us, and but not a blessing to no end, but a blessing so that we might be a blessing to others that are in our community. God, we are thankful for the ways that you entrust us with this space, with this church that has come before us and that will come after us. And God, may we serve it well. May we grow in our faith so that we might also be more able to image you and to show others your love in our community. We thank you, thank you, thank you. Show us the ways you would have us go, make our paths straight so that we might go into the world and be your people. Amen.